Dynasty Nerds Roster Rescue Episode 3. We are so excited to be back. We had an amazing show on Monday. We had an amazing show last week. We've just had a lot of amazing things going on here lately. And if you've been hanging out with us, you hopefully have gotten some questions answered. You know how things are working. But if you're new around these parts, let me just throw something your way. What we do on this show is we answer trade questions and we look at your rosters. We take a look, we tell you what's good, what's bad, what's ugly, and what we would do to help fix it. There's several different ways to do that. You can go to our website. We have the different trade sections that you can look at. You have the roster review section, like I just mentioned. But then there is also a nuke button. The nuke button basically says, I don't care what you guys were going to talk about next. What I care about is you answering my question about my team. So it moves you right to the top of the list. We have promo code Roster Rescue for 15% off a Dynasty Nerds membership. If you see all of these, questions and you see the tools and you're like, man, how do I get a hold of that? Just become a Dynasty Nerds member. You can do that by joining us at the Nerd Herd. Use promo code Roster Rescue for 15% off. Taylor, how you doing today, my guy?
Oh,
what's going on?
Taylor, can you hear me?
There we go.
I can.
There
hear
we
you.
go.
Yeah,
We're back.
Hi. All
All right.
Of course,
I was
cutting
just
me
asking
off
how you're
at
doing.
right at the introduction. That's fine. It's get all of the rust off at the beginning here. Episode 3, looking like it's episode 1, but it's not a Star Wars reference. Just what it's looking like.
Misa, so happy to see you.
Oh my god.
Annie.
Pete, how you doing, man?
Homie.
Don't drink your coffee
Coach
yet.
Pete.
Coach Pete.
Coach Pete.
It's green tea. I don't need coffee when I'm around you guys. I'm doing great. Really fast. I didn't discuss this with you, Garrett, but I found
Okay.
something amazing. Have you seen Maurice Jones-Drew's top 10 running backs for the NFL draft list yet?
Oh no, I have not seen
Okay, I just want to read it off. Okay.
that. Okay, here we go.
Number 1, Ashton Genty. Okay.
Okay,
Yep,
we
we're
started off
back.
today.
Number 2, Travion Henderson.
Okay,
Pretty good.
I'm feeling great
Number
about this.
3, Cam Scattaboo. Kind of,
Look,
but
a
understandable.
little high, but I love it because I love
Number
Cam,
4,
so I have no issue with this.
Quinshon Judkins. Understandable.
Okay.
Number 5,
You were making this sound like it was going to be a terrible list. I think this is pretty solid so
DJ Gibbons. Giddens.
far. Ooh, okay. So we have not gotten to Omarion Hampton yet, which does feel like a little bit of a
Number
climb.
6,
And now I'm a DJ Giddens guy, so
Yeah.
I do like Giddens, but this is high.
Number
for me.
6, RJ Harvey.
Still no Hampton. Okay,
Number 7, Omarion Hampton.
that is a little low. That is a little
8,
low.
Trevor Etienne. 9, Bayshal
Okay.
Tootin. And then 10, Woody Marks.
No Caleb Johnson.
Woody Marks is like my third lowest rated running back in the class.
You did not like him that much.
I really did not. I thought he was very meh. Like, if you just need somebody to catch passes, cool. But, like, he's not giving you anything else. But we'll see. All right. So, Pete, to start off the show, do we have one?
Whoop. Ignore that.
I love it. I love
There
it.
you go.
All right, Tony, he said, I want to make sure this is the first thing you guys talk about in the show, other than Pete talking about Maurice Jones, sure. But other than that, first thing that we talk about in the show, we've got a nuke right off the rip. Tony, so his team is a 10-team PPR, half-point tight end premium, 3 taxi squad spots for first and second years players. Bad start last season, sold off assets to acquire a lot of players that were on IR. CMC, Rice, Sheed, Godwin. Best trade partner, hurt so good. The worst trade partner in the league is Team Black Squatch 5. Uh, Team Big Cac is willing to trade me Bijan for the 101 plus more. Hasn't said what he would want. Should I try to make that move? Love the content. Can't wait to hear what you guys say about my roster. So let's go ahead and get into this. This is a tight end premium 10-team league. Super flex, I'm assuming as well.
I know PPR.
No,
just PPR.
One quarterback, but tight end premium. I have not seen that yet. That's the first time I've seen a tight end premium without the super flex. I like that. Mixing it up.
That's the way to do it.
All right. Josh Allen, Caleb Williams, Bryce Young at the quarterback spots, Bucky Irving, Christian McCaffrey, James Conner, and then Austin Eckler and Tyler Algier as well. Brian Thomas, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Rome Odunze, Rashee Rice, Xavier Worthy, Brandon Ayuk, Chris Godwin, Jerry Jeudy, Rashid Shaheed. So a lot of wide receivers there. TJ Hawkinson, George Kittle, and then Pat Freiermuth at the tight end position. We have the 101, the 107, and 202 to go along with the 309 this year. So in dynasty mode, far and away the top team. But Pete, where are we at in contender mode?
Third.
So we are third. So it's interesting. The team that is hardest to trade with is in first place. The team that seems to be the easiest to trade with in second place. So very, very interesting how this league set up. So I will let Taylor start this one off. Taylor, how are we looking for this squad?
Well, I love being number one in the dynasty mode by quite a bit, actually. We've got, looks like 18,000 points differential in dynasty value between the first and second team, which great. I love that. But switching it to contender mode, I do get concerned that we're number 3 here. Because when I look at our roster, Josh Allen, great, not touching that. Caleb Williams, not a difference maker in one QB, but you don't really need a backup if you got Josh Allen. I'm a believer in Christian McCaffrey still, as far as a production is concerned. If I have him, I'm holding him. I'm looking at him as a low-end RB1 with still that upside that we've seen in the past. So one thing I noticed on this roster is we have the 101. I'm going to assume that we're going Genty there, so I'm going to slot him in my mind as another potential RB1 candidate. We got Bucky Irving, James Conner. So I think we're okay at running back, but that to me does still feel a little light. We never know how a rookie's going to come out the gate. I love Genty. You love Genty. I don't know if we're going to be able to get, the first 3-4 weeks production out of him that we need to make sure that we don't fall behind in a league where we're already the third in contender mode. So looking at the wide receivers is where I have the most pause. It's not that we're missing assets. We have plenty of assets, but in my mind, we don't have any tier 1 producing players. And so what I would want to do is try and consolidate some form of Brandon Ayuk, Rome Odunze, Rashee Rice, Jackson Smith and Jigba, whatever I can do to try and get myself a tier 1 wide receiver. I think that would be my first move, Garrett. What do you think?
Well, while I have no issue with that, we do have a trade potentially on the table. He said Big Cac is willing to trade Bijan for the 101 plus more. So let's go to Big Cac real quick. All right, so he's kind of one of these middle-of-the-road contending teams. I am willing to make that move. It basically removes the risk and still gives me a young elite running back. Now, the question is, how much of a plus are you going to have to give? I don't want to have to give a big plus on top. If I just have to give like something pretty small, okay, cool. I'll make that work. But I think that helps solidify the running back room in a way where now if I have Bijan and CMC and who was it? James Conner, and who's the other guy?
Let me get it.
You got
back.
Bucky Irving.
Bucky Irving. Like, that's a really good running back group. I've got 4 guys that I feel really good about. I already have Tyler Algier to kind of back up my Bijan Robinson in case something were to happen injury wise. So like I feel pretty good about that. So if it's the kind of thing where it's like, hey, give me Jerry Judy and 101, I'd probably be willing to do that to get myself a Bijan Robinson. So I think that is the first move I would make. Now, if he's getting crazy and like, hey, give me Rashee Rice, hey, give me like something like that, I'm a little less interested now. Like I'm not selling any of the Smith and Jigba, Rice, Thomas, probably not even Godwin, in that deal. Like none of those guys are enough, or they're all too much, I should say, for me to want to do it. Now, to go back to your point earlier, Taylor, about tearing up to a tier 1 receiver, I'm open to it. I'm open to it because of the depth that we have. Although we lose a little bit if we trade Judy or somebody like that. Are we worried? Are we worried that we're going to upgrade to a wide receiver 1 when we haven't necessarily seen that Jackson Smith and Jigba, Rashee Rice, or Brian Thomas can't do that? Like, do you think it's worth the upgrade cost to maybe it's more of a sure thing, but maybe we just pay the extra for no reason and we get slightly older at the position? Like that's where my mind kind of goes. I'm like, is it 100% worth it? I struggle with that.
One thing that sticks out to me is the last place team in the dynasty value. Hide and Go Zeke, I believe is his name.
That's a good one.
So he's last in contending mode and in dynasty. So this person is at the bottom, whether it's because they're not a great trader, they've just had some bad luck, whatever it is. But they've got Nico, and I think he's a good target for us. I think you could go and swap. Can I swap Rashee Rice and Xavier Worthy and the 107 for Nico? Can I do something where I'm not giving up?
Seems like a lot.
You love Rashee Rice. You love Rashee Rice.
Like, but why would we trade a asset right now that has depressed value?
Well,
like, it's just not a good time to.
So
trade
don't
Rice.
trade Rice. Trade Odunze. Not in the same deal. Trade Odunze and the 107 for Nico Collins in a 1 QB.
I could live with that.
I just think that's the kind of move I want to make. Because if I get Nico on this team, instead of having to worry about, is Jerry Judy going to be startable? Is Xavier Worthy or Rashee Rice going to be startable? Like, okay, don't trade those assets if you think that you're not going to get real value for them. But I'm also not relying on either of those guys to be, a game changer in a 10-team league where we're not even.
But I think you start 11th.
Yeah,
right.
I mean, it's
Isn't it
start 11. No, start.
It doesn't.
No, but it's half PPR, so it does make a little bit of a difference to me that we get these difference-making wide receivers, which I think Nico is, and I don't necessarily feel the same way. So not to get stuck on like values of which players on his team, but I want to say liquidate some of that into, or condense some of that into a high tier asset. So the Bijan trade, I like that. Judy was a fine throw in. Maybe you can just do the 202 as the throw in instead. In a 1 QB, I don't think that's as valuable. So I guess that's my first thought, is do the Bijan trade, but I'm condensing those wide receivers. And I think the tight end room with Kittle and Hawkinson is fine for a competitor. I think if you're going to try and go out there and win this year, between Hawkinson and Kittle, you've got enough firepower and tight end premium.
Question.
Okay.
So, by the way, it is 10. You start 10. I counted.
Start 10.
Okay. So, can Ashton Genty's value go down after the draft, realistically? Is there a landing spot that he lands and is just trash, and it hurts his value?
I mean, it's possible you could get somebody just wanting to be ridiculous and like, we need to have the best running back room in the NFL, and the Colts draft him, or the
Ravens.
the Ravens or the Jets or the like. There are outside possibilities of something like that, but at the end of the day, I don't think any team is drafting Ashton Genty without at least planning to give him 15 total touches a game at minimum, right off the rip. Like, I don't see that as a scenario. Like, look at the Jahmyr Gibbs situation. We all thought that was a really bad situation right off the rip. And it turned out, nope, he was running back 1 overall this past year. Turns out to be a great situation. So, like, I don't want to overreact to the landing spot. So I just don't see a scenario that a team drafts him not planning to give him 15 plus touches a game.
Okay.
That would shock me. So is it possible? I guess, but I would say under 1%.
Okay. Hey, Adam, I just got your order. Sweet. That'll be at the end of the show.
Adam.
Let's go. So my thing with Robinson, or trading for Robinson with the 101 right now, is like, just hold it and wait to trade for, like, Robinson's value is not going to go up between now and day one of the NFL draft, right? Mm-hmm. So Genty's value is going to go up still. So if you're, and you don't need Robinson right now, so that's the only thing I would say is, like, just wait to trade him, unless if that plus is just a small plus. But I don't know. It's always hard for me to figure out what people's pluses are, because it could be so much.
Yeah, it is tough to know. And I see your point there. So if you think that that's the case, like, I'm fine waiting. But realistically, I don't think Ashton Genty's value changes much either. Like, I think both are going to be relatively the same throughout this entire process. So while I get what you're saying, I don't see a scenario either way where it goes up or down. It's probably just going to be like, oh yeah, he's running back 3 on most people's boards for Dynasty.
Yeah, it's more of the hype, like people wanting him on the roster and all that stuff. But I agree.
For sure. All right. Anything else, Taylor, before we move on from our guy Tony here?
Well, Tony, we appreciate you. It's always nice when we can figure out the order of the show to start out with. So thank you so much. Hopefully you're able to get a couple of deals done. I hear what Pete's saying, but I think a bird in the hand is definitely worth it, and Bijan is one heck of a bird. So go for it.
It's like a pterodactyl.
And so if he wants to keep 107, who do you hope drops to you there at 107?
I think he's in a position he can truly take best available.
Absolutely.
So if it's Warren that drops there in a tight end premium, you're thrilled. If it's Judkins, hey, let's add to that running back room. If you're really big on Emeka Ibuka or Luther Burden or somebody like that, they're the best player on your board at 107. I have no problem with that. So I think he's really in a nice spot. It should always be best available, but it's a lot easier to do that when you're as well-rounded as he is.
Sweet. Okay, so we have a question.
Okay, lay it
so
on
the
us.
question is, if you could choose any NFL draft landing spot for any rookie draft prospect or rookie prospect, who would it be and what team would they land on?
It's a good one. It's a fun question. I would say for me, if I could choose any spot for any rookie, it would have been Travion to the Vikings, but they had to go mess that up. I love the Vikings as a landing spot for a running back. So obviously that's not going to be the case anymore. I would probably say Omari and Hampton to the Denver Broncos. I think that's like a dream scenario where he would fit that offense really well. I think they would get a lot of use out of him. That it's a pretty solid offensive line that they have there. It's an improving offense on the whole. So I would probably say Omari and Hampton to Denver seems like a pretty dream scenario.
Would he move to 102 if he landed there?
If he lands there and Travion does not go in the first round, yeah, he would be 102 for me there in that scenario.
Interesting.
Whatever one of those running backs goes in the first round would probably be the 102 for me. I have him that close in my rankings.
Nice. I think for me, I would go with Colston Loveland to the Chargers. This is sort of my
Ooh, that's a fun
sort of
one.
my soap opera fantasy football. So if I can get the storyline of Loveland with Harbaugh back, but also get Herbert, someone who's not going to take away from Lad McConkey. Like, I'm just trying to match up my own fantasy interests with my own storyline interests, and I think the easiest pairing for everyone is to just have Loveland go to the Chargers, and then everyone can prosper, and there's no worries at all.
Awesome. Thunderlips says, man, I need a roster review. Hey, get it in, man. Get it in, Thunderlips.
Man, I would be interested to see your team's names. Or maybe not. I don't know. Okay, another roster review?
Let's do it. Whoa. Fancy.
We're getting pretty special over here.
That was pretty fire. I'm not gonna lie. I missed part of it because I was like clicking away to the other screen. I was like, well, I gotta click back. Hold on.
You didn't tell us you were gonna put that in there.
No.
You're just full of surprise.
I'm like Batman.
All right.
Okay, next one is
All right,
Jersey FFL.
Greg?
Yep.
All right. Greg, he's got a 1 quarterback league. He took over this team prior to last year's rookie draft, new to Dynasty, and still trying to figure everything out. Looking for trade recommendations and what direction I need to take this team. Start a quarterback, 2 running backs, 3 wide receivers, a tight end, 2 flex, and a defense. Has 102, 202, 302, 305, and 402. So, Greg, let's take a look at your roster, my guy. In 1 QB, you've got Lamar Jackson at the top. Running back, we don't have a lot to work with. Jalen Wright, Tank Bigsby, Braylon Allen, Jerome Ford, Tyler Algier. Wide receivers, Malik Neighbors, DK Metcalf, Michael Pittman Jr., Devontae Adams, Adonai Mitchell, Jacoby Myers, Jalen Coker. And then at tight end, we have Pat Freiermuth, Noah Gray, and Luke Schoonmaker. Right now, this team is in 8th in Dynasty mode. In Contender mode, I'm guessing it's going to be pretty similar.
Yeah.
Dead last right now at this point. So this is going to seem like a bad thing, Greg, to show up and say, oh man, we're last in Contender mode. This is actually a good thing because it can be tough at times, especially when you're new to Dynasty. Like, what direction do I go? I'm like the 5th ranked team in Dynasty mode. And like, I have a shot to make it happen. And but like, cool. But more often than not, we fool ourselves into thinking we are better than we are. And this is a scenario where it's like, nope, I got dealt a raw deal when taking over this team. This is not a good squad. And I think it's pretty straightforward, Greg. This is we're going to tear this thing down from the studs and build it back up into a beautiful masterpiece. So here's the best ways to do that. Most of the time in a 1 QB, you're not going to get anything for your quarterback. You are in one of the few positions where you can actually get something of value for Lamar Jackson. So I would be looking at some of the top tier teams. Like, who's the team 2 there? Who's their quarterback? Jordan Love. They might, in a 10 team, they might be looking to upgrade. What about the first ranked team? Burrow, they're probably not as interested. What about team 5 there? CJ Stroud. So I could see either the CJ Stroud or the Jordan Love owner being very interested in upgrading to Lamar Jackson. And you could do one of 2 things. You could either say, okay, I'll take on CJ Stroud or I'll take on Jordan Love, but I get a pretty nice plus on top. Or you just say, I'll figure out quarterback position later, which is low-key what I would probably do because I don't want to score points this year. I want my pick to be 101 next year. So that's kind of the direction I'm leaning toward. Is I would probably try to make that trade and not get back a quarterback, because I want to start the worst possible quarterback I can without it being like suspicious. So I'm looking at these teams. What picks do these two teams have, Peter? So they got nothing this year, but they do have a first and 26. Honestly, I'd probably in a 1 QB I'd be willing to trade Lamar for a first and 26. Would you, Taylor?
Yeah, that was kind of my first thought, was you can probably send him for a 26 first. Like, that to me is just sort of like it's like a vanilla trade in a 1 QB, right? Like, I can get an upgrade, a top quarterback, and I'm going to give you a random first. Like, that's just sort of something you'll see kind of common. The other thing I had in mind was to maybe try and find, did you say the second team there had a draft pick in 2025?
Nope. Let's take a look. Team 2 there, down with JPP.
109?
They've got 109.
So if I can get 109 plus, I think that's where I'm going to go with this. I think you should get a plus. I mean, just personally, I think you should go out and ask for a plus. I wouldn't just send it with the 109 and hope he snap accepts. But if it does come down to the 109 for Lamar, I would take that. I wouldn't look for another quarterback in return though. So if he's offering you, who did he have along with Jordan Love? Yeah, if he offers you like Jared Goff and something, expecting to get value on that, I would just let him know I'm absolutely not looking to get a quarterback in return for Lamar.
Unless it's one of those situations where it's like, I don't really want him, so I'll give you Goff with the 109. Like, okay, cool. Like, I'll take it.
Right.
But that adds no value really to me in this trade, because I don't want points this year, and Jared Goff gets me points.
Yeah, that's the thing. So can we jump back to our roster for a moment? Yeah, so the other thing that we can do is get rid of guys like Devontae Adams, DK Metcalf, Jacoby Myers, like just whatever I can get for them now is kind of their peak value. I don't see Adams going up. I really don't see Metcalf, taking off as far as like production wise, giving you the 105 plus next year or something like I don't know about you. I don't see DK Metcalf as reaching that like first, second, third round of startups ever again. So if I can drop him, if I can drop Jacoby Myers, what was that?
What are you looking to get back for DK pick value wise?
So I had DK in a league. I just sent him for Debo and a 2026 first, which I was happy with. Still getting some production from Debo. Got older though. I think a random 26 first plus a filler is probably what I would look for. But in this team, I don't need a veteran filler. So I would look for a 2026 first and maybe an early
Josh
second.
Downs.
Well, I'm getting rid of these guys. I'm with Garrett on this. I'm trying to don't give away your players, but you got to get these guys off your roster before week 2. Like, they can't be scoring you. You can't accidentally win 2 weeks because your wide receivers went out and peaked, because you don't have a running back to speak of right now. So that's my thought, is not dumpster fire sale, but get rid of Metcalf for a future first and what you can find for him. I think the key is just making sure that you get a first involved.
Yep. I would say too, I am not actively looking to trade him, but I'm willing to put Malik Neighbors out there and just say like, hey, I love Malik Neighbors. I don't want to trade him, but if somebody wants him, I'm willing to listen. And it's one of those things where it's like, see if somebody's willing to give you a king's ransom. If not, then just hold Malik Neighbors. But at this point, I think everything is on the table. And so if somebody comes to you and says, hey, I've got the 103 and I'll give you the 103 and a first next year and something else on top. Like, you might get to a point where you're just overwhelmed with assets that they're willing to give you. And you're like, it makes sense. because that's what you need right now. One player is not going to make the difference for you at this point. But do not give him away by any stretch of the imagination. Somebody needs to overpay for what Malik Neighbors' value is. And if they're willing to, then I make that move. If not, and they're just willing to give you like roughly what he's worth, then no, I'm good. I need somebody that's really willing to pay up for him.
Let me ask you this.
Yeah,
So, I mean, we have to give this guy, I feel like, a little bit more nuanced advice, given that they're newer to fantasy and just not having had the same possibly like trade experiences as some of us maybe have from just doing it year over year. So when you're looking for a guy like Neighbors as a trade asset, like 3 firsts is the minimum, but also not all firsts are created equal. So just because someone
Correct.
offers you 3 firsts doesn't mean that they're going to actually be giving you good value on Neighbors, because especially, and correct me if you think differently, this is not the draft class for you to necessarily be investing in as far as the way this roster looks. Like, I don't really want to have, I mean, if he does great, awesome, but I don't really want to have a lot of these running backs like Judkins or Scadaboo or I mean, if you like Caleb Johnson or whoever comes in near the end of this round. So if you're looking for firsts and most of the offers are coming in as late firsts, and you think that's going to end up being where the running backs fall, that's not the type of move that you necessarily want to make either. So I would personally
Agreed.
like to find someone who has the 105 through 108 and has the willingness to give me 2 more firsts on top of that. So I know I'm getting Warren, I'm getting Travis Hunter if he's a wide receiver, I'm getting a real solid running back, maybe I'm getting Henderson there, whatever it is. And that way I feel better about insulating myself and getting rid of Neighbors, but I want those future picks with this team.
Look at Team 6 right now, Pete. Your mouse is right on them. All right. So this would be a team potentially that like I would look at as a potential trade partner, because they're kind of middle of the road, but they need some receivers. So like, is this a team? Let's see what picks they have. What's their pick situation?
103.
So they've got 103. So that was kind of the one I used as a reference point. They have 103, which is a really good pick in this draft. So let's say you were able to get 103. You were able to get their 26 first, and you were able to get go up for a second, Pete. And you were able to get Ricky Pearsall and I'm trying to think of what else. Maybe like a second round pick. Would that be enough of a king's ransom for you, knowing that you're getting a high first, you're getting their first next year, an up and coming receiver, and a second? Would that be enough for you, Taylor? Yes or no?
I think getting the 103 and Pearsall and a future first is enough of a wide net that you're likely to get another asset out of those 3 things, whether that be the 103, whether Pearsall develops, or I mean in 26 maybe this owner doesn't do as well as they hoped and it's like the 105, 106 or something. But I think I'd want more if I'm this team, because I have nothing else. So if I give up Neighbors and I give up Lamar, that's all I have, really. So Neighbors I need to be auctioning him off essentially to my league. I need everyone to know that he's available and that I have good offers and I need better offers, and that this offer might be the best one that I can get, but I need to at least shop him around and know that that's the best offer I'm going to get before I would want to take it. The one thing I would say is you might want to be careful with which trade you make first, because trading away Lamar Jackson first is going to give people a sense that you are selling it all and that you're tearing it down, which I think is fine. If you sell Malik Neighbors first, I think that people are going to lowball you on Lamar Jackson like crazy. I think if you give up your hand and say, I'm going to be selling all of my players this season, and you start with Neighbors, I don't think you're going to get very good offers on the remaining players. I think you got to start with Jackson and then go into a Neighbors trade.
I like it. All right, so hopefully that was helpful there for you, Greg. Best of luck this coming season. Navigating those dynasty waters are fun, but you got to be careful. There are some sharks out there.
Okay. Can you hear me, by the way?
You're
I messed up.
kind of quiet all
really.
of a sudden.
That's cool. I was peeking like no one's business on stream. So I'll just talk louder. Hopefully you can kind of hear me right now. So
It sounds like you're in a tunnel yelling at us.
Going
that's what I'm
away.
doing. That's actually where I'm at right now. It's just a green screen behind me. So our next thing that's coming up is a trade question from Justin. And let me pull it up right now. Okay, here it is. Mike Evans and the 31st pick for the 13th.
Mike Evans and pick 31 for the 13th pick, so 201.
Yep.
This is a 10-team PPR, and this team, I believe, is not in contention mode. I feel like I remember that from before. I could be wrong. Assuming this team is not in contention mode, I would say I think that makes perfect sense. Giving up Mike Evans for 201. Mike Evans is going to help you too much this year, and you need assets for the future. Now, if you're a contender, I still think this is a trade that could make sense if you don't need Mike Evans. If you're the type of team that has, I've got Amon-Ra St. Brown, CeeDee Lamb, Rashee Rice, and whoever, and like I'm really like he's like my fourth receiver. I don't really know that I need him. Then I think it's a good opportunity to get younger as well. So I would say, yeah, overall, I would have no problem making that move probably either way, but especially if I'm in a more of a rebuild window, I think getting 201, like the 31st pick, 307, like that does nothing. That changes nothing for me. So to get the 201, I'm totally good with that. What do you think, Taylor?
Yeah, I think if you're selling Mike Evans, I think the 201 is about the best you can look for. Futures first, I guess, maybe. You probably have to kick something in at this point. But the 201 is probably the best you're going to find. I don't necessarily care much about that third round pick, but I would say if you're unsure about acquiring Mike Evans, if you're unsure, don't acquire Mike Evans. That's going to be where I'm at with that. So if you are saying I don't love Evans, then don't give up the 201 for him, because that's what I think he's worth. I think you're giving up full value in that trade. So if you wanted to counter and maybe get it for less, that's fine. But I'm with Garrett. I think the 201 is the side I prefer.
And side
All
note,
right.
really fast.
He did just say that was supposed to be 301 instead of 307. Still doesn't change much for me in that. I'd still overall rather have the 201 selection.
Perfect.
Yeah, I think we've discussed this on the show last week, and we have an article on the website discussing trade pick values. Pretty much anything after the 205, 206 is worth not a lot. I mean, not hardly anything. What, like a 1 in 15% chance of even being startable for you? Yeah. So,
by the way, on the poll that we posted, the Mike Evans side was actually 62%.
Really? We're disagreeing with the masses here. I'm all right with that.
I
Perfect
bet you they
opportunity.
like that 307. That's what they like, is the extra pick.
Yeah, I want that third, baby. Give me that third round pick.
That's Stephon Diggs. Okay.
All right.
On to So Justin's friend, his roster rescue.
Justin's friend. All right.
I
All
love
right. So this is Justin's friend from the Meat Hangers. Here's for the beers. This is a 1 quarterback, 2 flex spots, PPR. He's mostly doing this because he told me his team is way better than mine. His team is smelling the flowers, and I want to think what you have to, or I want to hear what you have to say about his team. The updated draft order: Hanneman, Flowers, and Fernaji, and then I think we skipped 4. The 5th pick is Marshall. We won't go through all of it, but basically, we'll have that as reference if we need it. The question really is, here's for the beers or smelling the flowers. Which team do we like more? So let's go with that. We'll start here. What do we have here? This is, which team do you have? Here's for the beers. All right. In contention mode, we've got Kyler Murray, Josh Jacobs, Chase Brown, David Montgomery, Ramondre Stevenson, Tony Pollard, Ladd McConkey, Devontae Adams, and then Sam Laporta at tight end. Picks wise, let's see what picks. And it doesn't look like maybe
They
the league
have
hasn't rolled over.
14 is what they've given us in the notes. So here's for the beers. First draft pick is 14 overall.
Yeah.
14 overall. Okay. All right. Let's go to smell the flowers. All right. Smelling the flowers. They've got Josh Allen, Drake May as their quarterbacks. Jonathan Taylor and Derrick Henry at running back. Nothing after that. Mike Evans, Stephon Diggs, Zay Flowers, Jaden Reed, Cooper Kupp, Michael Pittman Jr. at receiver, and then T.J. Hawkinson there at tight end. Picks wise, this team has, let's see, they have their 25.
So they have.
So that would be 13.
So they have
They're
pick
picking-
2, pick 11, and pick 13 overall.
Pick 2, pick 11, and 13. So let's switch it back to dynasty mode here. So here's for the beers in last place dynasty mode wise. And then what's the other? Smelling the flowers is an 8th dynasty mode. So right now, we'll say this. It's not clear to me which one is Justin's roster, if he has smelling the flowers or if he has here's for the beers. I would say smelling the flowers. I would agree with the GM on this. I think overall it is the better team. They have the better win now assets. They have the better long-term assets with the picks and a few of the young players. Here's for the beers just really doesn't have a lot overall in a 1 quarterback. It's basically Josh Jacobs and Ladd McConkey, and then to some extent Chase Brown are really the only true assets on this squad. So hopefully our guy Justin is smelling the flowers.
He is.
I'm not clear on
He
which-
is.
He is?
Flowers, yes.
Yeah.
All right, then you're clearly. I was feeling really bad for a second. I was like, I'm telling him like clearly the other team's better, but no, your team. It's better win now. It's better for the future. It's better all around. Like I don't think it's particularly close. But that being said, you still have a ways to go to catch up to some of the top tier teams. So it's like, hey, you were the skinniest kid at fat camp, so congratulations, you won. But like we want to get even better. So let's keep moving in the right direction and take a look at his team. So Taylor, with his team, I know we've talked about this team a little bit, but with his team, what would you be doing looking at smelling the flowers? Like what direction would you be taking his team for the future?
So I'm trying to piece all this together. And I think what happened is Justin took the trade that we were just discussing, and he actually has Mike Evans on his roster now. So I think if I'm breaking this trade down properly, which he corrected us in the chat here, he gave up the 201 and got Mike Evans and the equivalent of the 207. If that was the 21st overall and not the 31st. So that's where I think
I think
the
he's saying he had 3-1.
301.
I think is what
it
he
was
said.
301.
No, so I think in overall what he did is he basically gained Mike Evans to go down a round, essentially. So he dropped a
Right.
round and gained Mike Evans. So I don't want to crucify him at all about that trade, even though we went over. What I will say though is looking at he has Mike Evans and Stephon Diggs and Cooper Kupp. So those are three guys who we want to have good productive years this season, but there's a chance at any moment that the wheels could fall off for these guys. I have confidence in them. We'll see what happens with Diggs, but I like Kupp and Evans. I think with Henry and Taylor, you can compete. You got Josh Allen, you've got TJ Hawkinson. I like this team. I've got nothing against his team. He's got the 102. He's got, I think that's the issue a little bit here is their league hasn't been rolled over to the 2025 season yet.
Yeah.
So when we're looking at these values right now, all of their 2025 firsts
Yeah, go down to the picks, Pete.
are going to be a straight
Equal.
line as far as value. So right now he's getting a 300 whatever value for that. But when it becomes the
3,320.
and when it becomes the 102, it's going to jump up immensely. It's going to. Sorry, I was trying to find one of my leagues where I had the 102.
No, you're
It's
fine.
going to shoot up all the way to 400 or 4,300. So he's going to be getting almost $1,000 more dynasty value. 1,000 more dynasty value just once this gets rolled over, and then that's not taking into account that he has traded for other firsts. So I just think that
can we pause for a second? We already done his roster review. We need to do his friend's roster review.
So we need to help his friend not be bad.
because the first Monday was his roster review.
Okay, I was gonna say I thought we talked about a lot of
Yes.
these players, so we can head over to his buddy's team, and if I'm his buddy, like I think the hard part is like this team is very directionless. Like this team does not have a clear direction at all. Like in some modes, it's like, yeah, he's got young, youth, exciting, upside, and then it's like, but yeah, we also have Devontae Adams and Amari Cooper and Josh Jacobs, and like it's a weird team. It's like it's this team reminds me of that dude that's in his mid 40s and he's trying so hard to say that he has hair by like combing over like this 3 or 4 strands, and he's like trying to show people that no, I still have hair, and like, bro, just shave your head. Just shave your head. Like, it's time. Everyone knows. We could see that you need to do it. And I think that's kind of where this team is at. Is like, no, but I have Ramondre and like a comb over, and I have David Montgomery, and I have like, I think he just needs to rip the Band-Aid off and just say like, I'm gonna be more self-aware. This team is not in the spot that it needs to be to contend, even though Ladd McConkey's exciting and Chase Brown's exciting. Like, this team is just not in a spot where it's going to compete anytime soon. So I think they just got to pull the plug.
I'm with you. I'm looking at some trade options for them. If you are on, you're on the value mode. So if you go to the second overall team, they have CJ Stroud, Brock Purdy, and Anthony Richardson. In a 1 QB, they're rolling out no difference makers. If Anthony Richardson comes around, then sure, why not? But I think there's a chance that this person might be interested in getting Kyler Murray from you. I mean, you're not going to find much for him at all, if anything, but this person might be willing to deal with you for Kyler. And I think they could also use Josh Jacobs.
They have Marvin Harrison, so they might like that stack.
Yep. They've got Josh.
And Trey
You might
McBride.
be able to get rid of Josh Jacobs.
Oh, Trey McBride.
Or Chase Brown or David Montgomery or any of your running backs that are aging. I think this is your trade partner. So if he doesn't have an interest in Kyler, maybe he's tired of the Cardinals offense and wants to give up some of those guys. If he's a huge Cardinals fan, he's going to want to get Kyler on his team. But this person also has the 108, Garrett. So, what kind of package can we make for this person to get their 108 from them this season?
Yeah, I would be taking a look at my running backs specifically because his running backs are after Devon Achane and after Joe Mixon, he doesn't have a lot back. I think Josh Jacobs is pretty safe. So I don't feel like I have to rush to make a Josh Jacobs trade. Like he's one that I could, if I wanted to, wait till closer to the season when his value kind of rises and then make that trade. But all of these other running backs, specifically Chase Brown, David Montgomery, Ramondre Stevenson, are all guys that we could see value dips from, specifically Chase and Ramondre. Like we could see some pretty big value dips after the draft. So I would be pretty apt to go and try to move those guys before the draft and see what I could get for them. Now, if we're going specifically for the 108, I think you could trade Josh Jacobs pretty easily just for the 108. And bada bing, bada boom, that's a done deal. Like, I think that's pretty fair value right now. You get a lot younger at the position, but you're taking more risk on with a Quinn Sean type of guy. You might even be able to get a little more for Jacobs than that, but I would be trying to trade. Hey, I will give you Chase Brown, I will give you Ramondre Stevenson, and I will give you Devontae Adams, and you give me the 108. And I think that deal would get done.
And if you want to even be friendlier about it, just say to them, hey, pick 3 of these 5 guys for the 108. Just give them all the options you want. Give them Montgomery,
give
Stevenson, Pollard. Yeah, put Kyler in there and just say like, hey, pick 3 out of these 5 names. And that might be because that gives the other manager the control, the power. It's kind of like giving them a whole bunch of ones, but you know that you're only giving up what you're willing to give up. So it's a pretty crafty way to go about making a trade, I guess. But I think that would be a good option. The other thing that I'll say with this roster, Garrett, is we want to get rid of these players before the season starts. We don't want Tony Pollard, Ramondre Stevenson, and Devontae Adams on our roster with the first couple weeks of the season. Like I'm personally, if the Titans and the Patriots don't draft a running back that instantly slots in as a threat to those guys, I'm sending them as soon as the draft is done, like before they've ever hit the preseason field or anything. Because if they get injured or anything happens, their value is almost zero until they come back. So this is the team where you have to be really active and trading away at the right times, because otherwise you might go from having 6 or 7 valuable guys to having like only 2 things that anybody wants. And that could happen overnight with a team like this. So smelling the flowers. I think your friend was smelling the flowers a little too much for the beers, but I think you've done a service for him, and hopefully,
it's kind of you.
Hopefully, you guys are able to work together to get some deals done. As I'd love to find a deal for both your rosters are not for what you're both trying to do right now. So if I were you guys, I just wouldn't try to trade with each other for at least a season.
Just a quick question. I noticed that Team 1 had Anthony Richardson. No, not Team 1.
Team 2.
Team 2.
Yeah.
In one quarterback leagues, are you interested if Richardson is like, he should be a pretty cheap person to grab. In one quarterback leagues, are you interested in potentially grabbing him though? Because he does have that kind of potential game-breaking potential in the rushing game to be a difference maker, or is he still not super interesting to you?
So you were saying Anthony Richardson?
Yeah.
It depends on what the cost is, but like I'll throw out a third.
I was gonna say
to do that.
You know what?
Like
I'll throw out a third.
210.
I'd rather, and only a 10-team league. I would rather, if there's an Elijah Aroro, a tight end I really like, or maybe I'm really high on, name the running back, LaQuint Allen or whatever. Justin just said, I'm really trying to rebuild right now. I'm surprised you made that Mike Evans move then, my guy. Because if you're in rebuild, Mike Evans does not help you unless you think you can flip him for more. If you think you can flip him for more, then I have no problem with that at all. Because I'm fine turning assets into more assets. I just don't know how Mike Evans helps you rebuild
He says,
more than the 201.
says he doesn't have his 26 first for next year. I never want to do a rebuild year without my own first. So I guess my advice is, how much does your 26 first cost before you start planning a rebuild?
It says here.
So
that
go
he
to
has
smelling the flowers.
Oh, it's smelling. Yeah.
You're on
Whoops.
Here's for the Beers.
Yeah, he does not.
Yeah, so I guess
Before.
I would start
sorry.
by going to see how much your 26 first costs, and if it's too much, then I would say don't try to tear it down this year. Sell as you
Yeah,
can.
go all in because you have some older assets to try to win it. So if that's the case, yeah, push all in for it, and do the best you can. So
Yeah, I
Yeah.
would definitely check to see what that 26 value is before you trade any other veterans, because
Yeah.
if people start sensing that you're rebuilding, that 2026 first value is
anytime you
gonna
try
go
to
up.
get your own pick back, you're paying astronomical prices.
Yeah.
It typically, if not, if you could get it for a fair price, like awesome. But usually trying to get your own pick back, like at least every league I've been in, and if somebody's in like, hey, I'm trying to get my pick back, I'm like, well, I know that means you're trying to tank if you want your pick back. So I'm already valuing it way above whatever the market value
We
is.
do have the 111 and the 13th overall pick that we could try to trade back for our first. So can I send the
Yeah.
111, the 13th overall pick, and Mike Evans for my first back, or whatever that player is? I'm just being a little bit cheeky.
Well, he probably doesn't anymore because that was the pick that he moved to get Mike Evans.
Oh,
Because it's a 10-team league, so pick 11 would be 201.
oh, shoot. Well,
I don't think he
if
has
you
that
can't get
anymore.
your 26 first back, then you gotta compete. You can't hand someone else a 101 or 102. That's just
So
Yep.
And Hannah Man looks like
Hannah Man has their first, so they definitely need to tank.
yeah. So I don't know. I feel like if you look at the value difference, I guess it is because it's in dynasty mode. If we go to contender, like if you look at that graph, like the difference between second and sixth, like yeah, just go for it.
Yep. All right. Well, best of luck to you, Justin. Appreciate you, my guy. Love having you in here.
All right, what do we got?
We got a trade question from William. So we have Bowers for the 105, a 2026 first, probably middle or late, and Rashee Rice. Also included on the Bowers side is Geno and Jacoby Myers. It is a super flex league.
Oh, I didn't know Geno and Jacoby Myers were included on this. That changes it.
He does say both Geno and Jacoby for seconds all last season and never got a bite. So sounds like they're not really that valuable.
Okay. I'll be honest, that does change things for me because I've already talked to this guy a little bit, and the way I read it, I didn't realize that. I don't know why he didn't just put that in the trade. But that being said, if it on the surface, Bowers, if you're not contending, you don't necessarily need to get rid of him. He's still a very, very valuable asset. But being able to get 105, which you're probably likely going to be able to somewhat replace him with Tyler Warren. That is not a 1-for-1 replacement at all. It's a very exciting upside player, but we don't know. But then you get an additional 26 first, and then Rashee Rice. So to me right now, Rashee Rice is worth more than a like mid-first pick. So it would be something similar to getting like, hey, I get 104, 105, and a 26 first. In that case, I think it's worth it. Now, throwing in Geno and Jacoby does make that a little bit more problematic for me. Not because they're like super valuable, but it just adds a little bit onto what's already an elite asset. That does make it a little bit more difficult for me, if I'm being honest. What do you think, Taylor?
It says full rebuild and an orphan. So that tells me you don't want these guys on your team. You don't want Geno and Jacoby on your team if you've been shopping them all season and for a second and couldn't get them. Now, did anyone offer you a third for them? Because then maybe there was interest and you just weren't asking the price that people were willing to pay. If people were willing to give you thirds for them and that's all they're worth, then I mean, in a 1 QB, oh no, it says super flex. So in a super flex, I think Geno has value, but in a rebuild, he's only worth as much as people are willing to give you, and he's actually going to hurt your team in a rebuild if he's on it. So that's kind of an anti-leverage point where you kind of need to get rid of Geno before he starts getting you points or gets hurt or whatever might happen where he's no longer worth anything. Like maybe they draft Jackson Dart and now people think Geno Smith is headed out the door in a year, even though he's not. So I'm not as hung up on losing him, but I would say if you're rebuilding, unless you're going to get Tyler Warren with 105, why not keep Bowers and rebuild with him?
I think it's because he needs more total assets. My guess is he just doesn't have.
Yeah, I guess he says doesn't have many. I think the price is fine. I'm not going to get hung up on Jacoby. That's for sure. He can be.
Well, I hear what you're saying, Taylor, but I do think that there's also a point where you can get yourself in a dangerous spot by trading a bunch of players at such a low value point that now you've kind of reset the market on what those kind of players are worth, and you're going to have a little bit of trouble trading them in the future. So while I don't disagree that they are more like you need to get them off your roster, just trading a quarterback that's a starter in Superflex for a 3rd round pick just seems like grossly undervalued. And so that's the dangerous precedent. Like Jacoby, I get. Like if you want to trade him for a 3rd, that's fine. I have no problem with that. It's Geno that I'm having the hard time with. So what I would do, honestly, if that's the best offer I'm getting right now, is like somebody's offering me 3-3 for Geno. I'm literally putting in the group chat, like, I do not need Geno. I do not need him on my roster this year. But are we really saying that a starting quarterback in the league is only worth a 3rd round pick? Like, I could almost guarantee you somebody will say, all right, and then somebody sends you an offer for 212 or somebody like that. Like, I think you need to kind of call out your league in that sense and just say, like, hey, here's the value that you guys are at. I think it's silly. Like, can somebody really not do better than 3-3 or whatever it is? So that's kind of what I would be doing, is I would be kind of putting that out there to my league.
So if you were going to counter this guy, they want Geno, they want Jacoby, they want Bowers. Are you going to ask them to add to the 105 the future first and Rashee Rice and still do the deal? Because this person's giving you value on Geno and Jacoby.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, can I just get the value I want for those guys out of this same deal rather than trying to find a way to trade them in another deal? So it's like, can I get that extra
I would say, can you give me a late second?
Can I just ask?
Can you give me a late second on top of this? Yep. I think that's what I would be doing. I'd be asking for a late second, like, hey, I'm willing to throw both these guys in. You get a starter. You get a receiver that has been a wide receiver 3 consistently. Like, just give me a late second and we'll call the deal.
And it's a stack now, so you're getting both
Yep.
of them. Yeah.
Yep, you're getting Geno with the tight end. Absolutely.
Awesome. Okay. And we have a question. Who is your favorite sleeper tight end this season for fantasy football? Who's going to be the next Charles Clay?
The next Jonnu
Charles
Smith.
Clay is the guy we're going with.
I'm going
think it's-
realistic here.
I think it would be more like who's the next Mike Gesicki or Jonnu Smith from this past season, hopefully. But my answer is Hunter Henry. Not a sexy name, but I think with Drake May, we saw some good rapport. They even had Austin Hooper involved, but I mean, obviously, he's even one more year down the road. I think that 31 through 33 range for tight ends is one of their most productive windows, and you're going to be on a team devoid of talent. Even if they get a rookie receiver or two in there, you still got to have that security blanket for a second-year quarterback. So I think Hunter Henry's going to get peppered with targets. I think their offense is going to be more efficient. He might even get some looks in the red zone, depending on how their running game goes and if they're able to move the ball well enough. So I'm looking to scoop him up for a 3rd round pick during drafts if I can. If I have a 304 through 3 whatever, and I can just get a guy I know can start for me a couple of times each season, then that's what I want to do with it.
Yeah, I don't hate that guy at all. I think he's a solid one. Look, I'm going back to the well. I'm sticking with Jonnu Smith. I think everybody's kind of moved him right back down their dynasty rankings. I never see him inside the top 12. Typically, I see him in that like 15, 16, 17 range. And what's changed? Like, what's changed for Jonnu Smith? It's the exact same head coach. It's the exact same offensive coordinator. It's the exact same quarterback. There have been no receiving additions to this team. Like, it is truly 100% the same. So that leads me to believe that the production should be similar. This team has gone with more of that West Coast, more of the horizontal passing game, get the ball in the hands of their playmakers, let them do something, as opposed to the vertical passing game we kind of saw the first year or so in Miami. So for me, I think it's, hey, don't fix what ain't broke. Go right back to the well. I think Jonnu Smith is still undervalued.
Mm-hmm.
So, question. This is spur of the moment, guys. Has there been a tight end in the past that you thought for sure was going to Cole Kmet it?
Kyle Pitts.
Who?
Kyle Pitts.
Yeah,
Kyle
but
Pitts.
like not the hype of Kyle Pitts. Like this is the
Okay.
sleeper. That's why I said Cole Kmet.
I thought
Okay.
Kylan Granson was going to be something, and he was never something. Like, I thought he would be something. I'm not saying I was going out sending, like, crazy offers, but, like, he was on most of my dynasty rosters because I thought he would do something, and now he's probably not on more than maybe 1 or 2 rosters, so, yeah.
Jim, I'm seeing your comments over there. I always respect people being fiscally wise. So I totally get it. But when you're ready, we'll be here for you, my guy. And we will answer those questions and make sure you have the best darn dynasty roster that you can have. That being said, the guy that I would say for me was a sleeper that just never really panned out. I usually am just not big on tight ends. So yeah, I guess I was a big Cole Kmet guy, and he's kind of always just like tight end 10 to 12, which is fine. He had a season where he was tight end 6. So he hasn't been bad, but he hasn't been amazing.
He has
Mhm.
streaks.
So I don't know.
He has spurts. Like if you look
Yeah.
between week 3 and 6, he's tight end 2 or something like that, but he just hasn't put it all together
Yeah.
yet.
Yeah. But that being said, I don't know. I try not to spend too much time focusing on tight end. I'm either getting myself, depending on the year, whoever one of the top 2 or 3 guys are, get myself the Travis Kelce of that time, or the, now it's Bowers and McBride, or get myself like somebody like that. Or I'm just taking like 3 or 4 high upside dart throws and go with that. So
Trey
that's typically my strategy at the position.
Burton was my dude.
There you go.
Okay.
Hey, you
remember.
combined our 2 teams. You got the Colts and the Bears in one player. That was a good
Oh
job.
man.
Well
Cole
done.
Kmet Senior.
Yeah, right.
Fantastic.
Awesome. So we have another
Komet Senior.
roster review.
All right, let's
This one's
review it.
dope.
Carter's- Yeah, dope league.
All right, Carter, Superflex 10-team league. He's looking to pull off a quick rebuild if possible. Any advice is appreciated. It is a Superflex league. Start 9, 3 wide receiver, but may be increasing a flex spot in the near future. Sold a few vets last year, trying to get younger and grab an earlier pick. With the 101 and 102, I'm looking to double up on running back and grab a wide receiver and maybe a tight end with the 201 and 202. Also considering moving Jacobs for another first. If a manager is interested, let me know what you guys think. So, Superflex 10-team league at quarterback. Oh, can you scroll up a tiny bit, Pete? There we go. Joe Burrow, Jordan Love, Bryce Young, Jameis Winston, running back Josh Jacobs, Tajay Spears, Braylon Allen, Marshawn Lloyd, Marvin Harrison Jr., Jackson Smith and Jigba, DJ Moore, Ricky Pearsall at wide receiver, David Njoku, Kyle Pitts at tight end. And then we have those picks that you were talking about, 101, 102, 201, and 202, along with 302, 402, and 407. Right now, Dynasty mode, this team is in second place. In contender mode, where are we at, Pete?
I believe 11th or 9th. in this
Ninth.
case.
All right. So big gap between contender value and dynasty value right now. So let's go back to the dynasty value mode. Overall, look at, well, you know what? I've done a lot of starting today, Taylor. You go ahead. I'm being greedy. I'm being selfish. Go ahead.
I appreciate you letting me start with the Mighty Marvin Power Rangers. That's one of the best names I think we've had on the
That's
show
pretty
so far.
fantastic.
So props to you, Carter, for the name. I'm going to look at this roster a little bit differently than what we've been doing with some of the others because we do have value here. We're not trying to split one asset into three so that we can build ourselves up. We've got a little bit of a different setup for once. But the part that we are still struggling with is the contender mode. So if we switch over there quick, Pete, to see where we're at. Now you're being a little suppressed with the David Njoku, I think. We might find that that's more productive than currently being projected. Kyle Pitts, I mean, there's still a chance that he comes out and can be a top 10 tight end. Like, we're not asking him to be a generational talent at this point. We just want him to come in and score us 8 to 10 fantasy points regularly. So I think that although you're ranked in 9th, there's a little bit of a hidden bump waiting for you. Now with the 101 and 102, I think it gets interesting because as much as I love having the first two picks, I think what you really gain by having the 101 and 102 is power. So the 101 for Genty, I'm fine with. I'm never going to fault someone for that. But I do see that the number 1 overall team in dynasty value, who is the Ace of Cades, another great name, they have the 103. So with the 103, 203, 207, 208. So I'm going to take that 102 on draft day, and I'm going to move back to 103 and get as many of those seconds as I can get. And if we look at the running backs on the same team, Ace of Cades, they've got Gibbs and not a lot else right now. So maybe this is a trade partner with Josh Jacobs. Maybe this is on draft day, someone where you can kick in one of your lower tier running backs, and then they're willing to give you the 103 and a future first because you're giving them the 102 and Tajay Spears or whatever that deal looks like for you on draft day. But I think that person has pieces that you want and you have leverage for their roster. So I would be looking, and anytime you have someone else who's at the top of the dynasty values, at least in my experience, they're the active traders in your league. Very, very rarely does somebody manage to get themselves in the top 1 or 2 of dynasty value without making moves, because these are all microtransactions. The more transactions you make, the more value you can gain. Get yourself up there. You'd have to hit almost perfect on your draft picks in the 2nd and 3rd round to get yourself up there. So anytime I'm looking to make a trade, I try to move myself to either the people with a lot of value Granted, they're probably savvy traders, but they're probably willing to deal. Or you move yourself down to the bottom and look at who's desperate. So with this type of roster, I'm more willing to go to the people who've got real players and might want to do a real deal with me, because I've got plenty of assets to work with.
Let me ask you this, Taylor, because 96% of the time I feel like you and I are pretty close to being on the same page. I'm struggling with this one, so help me out, because maybe I'm misunderstanding. Why are we trading down from 102 to 103? Because I get what you're saying about like having the power and whatnot, but like if this guy needs running backs, the most likely scenario right now, we don't know what's going to happen draft day, but I would say the most likely scenario right now is we have 2 first-round running backs. I think 3 is a little unlikely, but possible. I think 1 is a little unlikely, but possible. But I think 2 is probably what most people would assume. Doesn't it feel like for a team that could use running back and the best players on the board are also running backs, doesn't that a little bit like go against what they actually need?
Do you think we're contending this year? We're
I
9
don't think
out
we're
of 10.
far off.
We're
I don't
9 out
think
of
we're
10.
far off.
I guess if you're convicted in thinking there's 2 running backs that go in the first round, then I see your point. I
Do
can
you think
see a
there's
world.
not? Do you think there's not? Because I think that's the most likely scenario as we sit right now.
I think there's a good chance for it. I think the odds of having 3 are very slim, but I think it's more likely that we would have Genty go in the first round, and then we'd see 3 running backs go in the early to mid second round, just based on the team's needs and the players available. Like, could the Pittsburgh Steelers take a running back? Maybe. Could the Chiefs take a running back again in the first round? Maybe. But I'm just going to operate from the sense that Cam Ward is probably going to be a top 3 pick in this draft. This is a super flex. We're going to have Tet McMillan involved. We're going to have however the draft actually shakes out. So for me, I'm moving back from 102 to 103, and then I'm moving back from 103 to 104 or 05, and then I'm moving back to 106 or 107, and I'm taking a running back wherever I reach that tier. So if that's Judkins, if that's Henderson, whoever. But I guess for my personal answer, I think the 102 and the 106, that valued range, isn't as wide as maybe what you've projected so far. So I don't think that 102 is going to be worth like an extra first compared to the 103. I think the 102 versus 105 are all going to be tightly grouped unless you have a favorite guy in that range.
While I agree, I think the value is similar. If we go with what I do believe is the most likely scenario where there's 2 running backs in the first, I do think that changes the tiers. I think now 101 is its own tier, 102 is its own tier, and then that 103 to 105, 6 range is a new tier. And I think for this team specifically, if we're looking at it, contender mode, they're a little bit lower, but Joe Burrow and Jordan Love are good enough quarterbacks to be on a championship roster for a contending team. Marvin Harrison Jr., Jackson Smith and Jigba, DJ Moore, Ricky Pearsall, a little bit light in the britches at wide receiver. I think we need one more like real hitter there. But depending on what Pearsall does this year, he could be that guy. Or does DJ Moore kind of elevate again now that Keenan Allen's not there and Ben Johnson's there? Plus, we have the 201, 202. I would not be opposed to taking a wide receiver in both those spots. Like, okay, is it Emeka Buka and Matthew Golden that we get there? Okay, now I gave myself 2 more shots at some high upside players. And Njoku and Pitts are not bad options. So now if we're looking at, let's say it's Josh Jacobs, Ashton Genty, and Omarion Hampton at running back, we really now have built ourselves. It's on the younger side, and you have some risk of guys not developing like you hoped. But I think you are on the cusp of saying, I'm a legitimate title contender. Whereas if we were to move down, maybe we can still get a running back we like, maybe not. But if we move down, like is picking up the, going from 2-1, like if we were to do this today before the draft, not knowing what's going to happen, is moving from the 102 to 103 and picking up pick 2-6 in the draft. Is that really worth the risk of there being that one other first round running back? And now at 103, we don't get a guy that we really like there, or at 104 or whatever the pick is. Like, to me, that's just not worth it to do at this point. Now, if we get on the clock after the draft and then I see how my tiers kind of shake out and I still feel really good about the guy at 102 is still a guy I would like at 104, 105, 106, then I think I'm willing to do that. But I don't know if pre-draft I want to lose the power of having the top 2 picks in the draft. Like, the draft goes through me right now until I say otherwise.
Yeah.
So, quick question. Because as teams, kind of interesting because you're trying to figure out if you're to the point of like trying to gather assets for the future still, or are you in the place to start trading some away? Like, this could be a team that I might be interested in sending a second for, like a Mike Evans, right? Would you do that instead of like spending a second on a rookie wide receiver instead of like flipping? Like, if you could flip 201 and
if I could flip
202
202 for Mike Evans or Cooper Kupp or Devontae Adams,
something like that.
Yep, I would love to do that. Yep.
Okay.
So
it's almost time to start sending away your seconds for vets to fill out your roster. Would you say that? It could be.
If you think you are in contention mode, which I think this team could be with the right running backs. I think this team could be. So I would not have an issue with that.
Okay.
So go to Silver Dollar Lamb Jacks. I don't understand that reference, but that's fine.
Okay.
Okay, so they've got Derrick Henry, Christian McCaffrey, and the 105, along with Lamar Jackson and no other quarterbacks. We have 3 quarterbacks. We have the 102, and we have the need for a start running back. So on the clock with Garrett, you're not moving the 102 before you're on the clock. You got to know who's on the board. Mm-hmm. You got to know what the draft looks like. But when I'm on the clock at 102, assuming that something in the draft doesn't just make Omarion Hampton or Travion Henderson stick out like a sore thumb, I want to try and move from 102 to 103, and then I want to try and move from 103 to 105 with this guy. And I want to try and get anything I can off of his roster that will help me in that running back position. So can I give the 103 for the 105 and David Montgomery and something? Can I give something and the 103, something on my 202 maybe, to get the 105 and Derrick Henry? Something like that. Are you going to do that, Garrett? Let me ask that. Would you give the 103 and the 202 for 105 and Derrick Henry?
I'm not sure that you would need to give up the 202. Maybe you would have to, but I feel like if I'm a non-contender and I really like a player at 103, like, it's not hard for me to add Derrick Henry to that. But yeah, it's really interesting that this team is the assets they have for being one of the worst teams in the league. Like, it's really an odd, like, so this is a wonderful trade partner if you wanted to, because, like, honestly, you could just straight up just say, like, hey, I'll give you 201 and 202 for Derrick Henry and Christian McCaffrey, and that might get it done.
I mean, you could even try to swap one of your quarterbacks into Lamar too, because that team looks like. Although, yeah, I was gonna say maybe they're probably not just like a diehard Ravens fan. They just happen to have 2 of them. But I'm with you that's their trade partner. So I'm gonna go to that manager and I'm gonna say, hey, what are you looking for? Because I know that I've got plenty on my roster that they would want, and then I'm not gonna tell them up front, but like they've got a lot on their roster that I want. Like, so I'm just gonna reach out.
Mm-hmm. Are you also just kind of making a play for Kelsey, just one more year, but just kind of fill out that your tight end room?
I don't know. Njoku and Pitts should get it done. That should get it done.
Yeah, I don't know that there's much of a difference at this point, unfortunately.
Okay. Cool.
But yeah, I think this is the trade partner. That would be dope.
This is the one. Also, I'm curious. Whenever you're kind of looking at a roster like this, and you can kind of like, okay, do I just keep on building maybe for 2026, or do I try to compete now? Like if it's kind of like 50-50, are you more prone to go for another year to kind of just rebuild a little bit more, or are you usually leaning more towards the let's win it now in 2025?
I would say it's tough because it's a little bit of a case by case basis. I lean more toward like give it one more year because the rookies might be good enough. We've seen a lot of rookies in year one be good enough to put you into a ship. And so, like, if you were unsure, then I'm fine not trading for CMC or Mike Evans or something like that. Like, I don't feel like this team has to do that. They could just sit back, take all their picks, and do their best. But I think this team is close enough to where a legit veteran, you know, if I'm adding Devontae Adams and Derrick Henry, I'm adding Christian McCaffrey and Devon and you know Cooper Kupp or whatever. Like if I'm adding assets like that with my second round picks, I think this team would compete. So generally, yes, I don't want to do it too quickly because there's nothing worse than to come out of rebuild just to start rebuilding again because you miscalculated. So like that's the worst. I hate that. But in this scenario, I do think this is a team with guys like Harrison and Smith and Jigba, who I really like, with young assets like the 101 and 102 that are going to be some really good running backs. You're solid at quarterback with a first-round guy and a second-round guy in a startup with Joe Burrow and Jordan Love. Like you've got a lot of the requisite pieces in place that still have some youth on your side. So,
Okay, so more like try to win, but don't go all in yet. Kind of a spot.
Yeah, I'm not selling 101 and 102 for like super old guys just to try to like push it and win this year. Like I still want my young core.
Perfect. Okay, we got Anthony's roster here.
Anthony. He opted in right at the beginning of the show, right? Yep. He was the one that was like, "Yeah, I just got it right before the show started, baby."
Okay, I say this, but what is his league's name?
It is called TCB Dynasty.
TCB Dynasty. Well, I don't have it.
Are we
here.
still on the last guy?
There it is.
Okay,
there it is.
We go.
TCB.
I need like a technical difficulties slide to change to. Okay, here we go.
All right. So this is Anthony's squad. Lineup is as follows: 1 quarterback, 1 running back, 1 wide receiver, 4 flex spots. So I like the flexibility in this one. That's kind of fun. Flex spots can be wide receiver, running back, and tight end. 1 more super flex spot. So start 8. So a little bit of a shallower starting lineup. So you only have to start 1 running back, and you do not have to start a tight end, which is very interesting. Team is young, but can contend soon. How should I draft, and what trades should I make? Going Ashton Jeanty at 101. So we've got Jaden Daniels, Michael Penix at quarterback, Chuba Hubbard at running back, at wide receiver, Brian Thomas, Romo Dunze, Rashee Rice, Brandon Ayuk, Ricky Pearsall. At tight end, we have, can you scroll for me, Peter? We have Brenton Strange, Chig Okonkwo. And then at picks, we have the 101, the 104, and then we've got multiple first and 27. Does not look like we own our own first and 26, though. Am I reading that right? Yeah. So don't have your own first and 26, but you have D Jones pick there. So all of that being said, it's a younger team. You're correct. We're seeing what we can do this year at the quarterback position. I would say, if we could scroll back up, Pete, at the quarterback spot here, you have a slam dunk, borderline sure thing in Jaden Daniels. So you've got nothing to worry about there. Michael Penix, I love as a second quarterback, but I feel a lot better if I have a third quarterback that's a little bit more of a steady Eddie. Do I have a Jared Goff? Do I have a Matthew Stafford? Do I have a, just somebody that I feel confident in? So that's one thing that I'm just kind of keeping in the back of my mind is what else do I have there? Now, you only have to start one running back. So in most leagues, Ashton Genty and Chuba Hubbard really wouldn't seem like enough, but only having to start one, that probably is enough if you feel confident enough with the rest of your receivers. So Brian Thomas, Odunze, Rashee Rice, Brandon Ayuk, those guys are going to start for you more or less week in, week out. See about Ayuk coming back. So now we're at Ricky Pearsall as your other potential starter. We are very weak still at tight end, though. Now, Brenton Strange could have a nice little breakout season. But here's where this gets tricky. I feel like this team is kind of similar to the last team that we covered. But I worry about exactly what Pete brought up. I would worry a little bit about pushing the chips all in because I do wonder if it's quite there. We know that we need a third quarterback. We probably, to really contend, need one more legitimate receiver. And we need a legitimate tight end. And that's already taking away the 101 because I'm assuming that's Ashton Genty.
Yeah.
So really we have 3 spots that are going to make me feel a lot better about a true contending team. And we only have one asset at this point. Now, we could split this asset, but we only have one asset at this point to potentially fill those 3 spots, and that's pick 104, unless we want to dip into 26 and 27 and use some of those assets, which is a possibility. Taylor, are we kind of thinking the same thing here, or are you thinking a little differently than me?
So we don't have our 26 first for next year, which I think takes out the option to tank. Like, we're not going to try and shoot for a top 5 pick because we don't have it. That said, I don't think we're ready to contend. I don't see this team as being, I don't see it making it to the playoffs and then being able to put up 3 consistent weeks to win you a championship. I think it's missing some difference makers. So that said, Jaden Daniels, Michael Penix is okay. I think what we need to do is try and turn Brandon Ayuk into a reliable, productive receiver and an asset. So can I split Ayuk and get, I mean, we keep saying Mike Evans. I don't really want to say Mike Evans. I'll say Devontae Adams. I'll say Keenan.
Oh, Terry McLaurin's one.
Terry McLaurin. He might be a little expensive, but I think you can definitely get there with Ayuk. So the idea being, I have Jaden Daniels. Maybe I go out and get Debo in this. Maybe I can get Debo for super cheap. And I trade down from Ayuk to Debo and pick up a future first or something. Maybe a 27 first. I don't know.
I like Chris Godwin as well. Chris Godwin could have a big season.
Would be good. So that's what I'm looking to do first and foremost is I want to split one of these assets into a productive starter and an asset. So whether that's a draft pick or whether it's another young guy, whatever it is. So you add in Ashton Genty, you've got Chuba Hubbard. I still don't think you're there for running backs. It looks like the guy who's in first overall, the greatest GM is his name. He's rolling out Bijan, Breece Hall, Derrick Henry, and then if Chase Brown is still there. Plus, he's got Amon-Ra, the Devontae Adams we talked about. And in Superflex, he's got 4 quarterbacks. I mean, Cousins isn't a starter at this point, but I'm projecting at some point he gets a team. So that's what you're up against to win a championship this year. And I think you're throwing a stone at a giant there. So I would rather, if I'm going to compete at all, I want to get myself out of Ayuk and into someone productive and an asset, or I want to get myself out of guys like Chuba Hubbard and anything I can get for Brenton Strange. Like, don't keep these guys on your team that are only going to be good for this year and then not helping you in next year. Because I think what you're really doing is you're building for 2026 without your 2026 pick. So how can you stay above water? You're not really competing, but you don't want to sell out to get your 26 first back because you have enough assets here to actually contend as far as like next season. Like, I don't think you want to do a full rebuild at all with this roster. So trickier,
No.
not as much fun, but we do have the 104 as well. So I guess my first thought for you, Garrett, when we're looking at a move to make, if we can't split Ayuk or something to give ourselves a better chance at competing, are you making the 104 or are you using that to split at the point?
So he put an interesting note. Said working on picking up Jonnu Smith for Tank Bigsby. I would do that all day and twice on Sunday. Like,
yeah,
love
yeah.
that.
How many
move.
times on Saturday?
Three times on Saturday.
In this format, every single second of every day. You don't want Bigsby on your team in a one running back league.
No. Like this is pretty easy. But on the flip side, now you saying that reminded me, you don't actually have to start a tight end though either. I forgot. At least you didn't say that. Right? One quarterback, one running back, one wide receiver.
I see. So you don't need a tight end at all.
I'd still rather have Jonnu Smith though.
He's a starter, yeah. He's a flex starter.
Yeah, so I'd still rather him over Tank Bigsby. But it's not as slam dunky as it would be if you had to start a tight end. So considering that, I do think we are at a spot where I want to get myself. Obviously, we got Ashton Genty. Oh, you do need to start one tight end. Okay. Oh, Dennis, what's good, homie? Yeah, I would say for this, if you do have to start a tight end, that's a big deal. Like getting Jonnu Smith for like nothing basically in a league, getting for a running back where you don't have to start a running back outside of one guy, like that's fantastic. So Chuba and Ashton Genty get you to a decent spot. Now that kind of solves a little bit of your tight end problem. So I still would like to get a little better there, but it's not the end of the world. And I think he'll be good at least for this year and maybe next year. We'll kind of have to see how that plays out. So really now the main thing for me is I need one more true difference-making starter, whether that's at wide receiver or at running back. It doesn't really matter. It's a flex spot either way. So I need one truly difference-making starter, and I need another quarterback in case Penix isn't that guy. Like, that's what I need to do.
What level of quarterback do you need? Like the last place person has Geno.
Yeah, I was just going to say, Sleep for DeWitt has Geno, and they have every receiver we just mentioned. McLaurin, Godwin, and Debo.
I think you could – what other picks does he have besides 104? Does he have anything else?
Our guy? No.
Okay.
Although he's got so many future 26 seconds, he could probably buy a veteran starter in season for 2 of those seconds.
I would say go get either Terry McLaurin or Chris Godwin. Take either one of them because those are both guys that are not totally ancient. They're older, but they're not like on their deathbed like a couple of these other guys. So you might get another year or 2 out of them. And then after this season, I mean. And then, yeah, get Geno Smith as your third quarterback just as kind of a little bit of a safety blanket in case Penix doesn't pan out. And then all of a sudden, you take the 104, and now at 104, I'm adding either Hampton, Tet McMillan, or Travion Henderson. Like, I'm adding one of those 3 guys to my team. Now, all of a sudden, I don't look nearly as far away as I do right now. Because Ashton Genty we expect him from the rip to be a running back one.
Mm-hmm.
You get an additional running back there that we think has RB1, like legitimate RB1 potential, maybe also from the rip, but if not, within the next 2 to 3 years. And then outside of that, like you're adding Terry McLaurin or Chris Godwin or something like that to your roster. Like, I think you're in a good spot there. I think that's the move for sure.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think I'm going to that manager and saying, I don't think you're going to get Godwin. Maybe you would, but they have Baker. So a lot of times when people have stacks, they want to charge you more to break it up, even though it doesn't necessarily make sense.
Well, you have Jaden Daniels, so McLaurin's a little more fun anyway.
That's what I'm saying. So it doesn't hurt you. And if he says no to McLaurin, but he's willing to give you Debo and a first, like I would do that. I would be looking to get one of their players. Even honestly, I don't have anything against Michael Pittman. I'd rather have Godwin or Debo as far as what we're talking. But like, if that manager's
upside play, if they get quarterback figured out,
you need someone, and that is your manager. So if they're not willing to deal, then that stinks. I mean, you hope that they can. But then what I'm gonna just reiterate: you've got an extra 27 first, you've got 2 extra 26 seconds, and then you've got a bunch of lower picks in the coming years. So it seems like you've set yourself up to make a run when the time comes. But this, for me, isn't the year. So I'm going to stick with the productive struggle. I'm going to try and jockey myself around. It's tougher because you don't have your first. If you had your first, I would treat this a little differently. But not having your own first, I think you still want to give yourself a shot at competing without spending a lot of the assets that you have.
Yep, I think that's sound. All right.
Okay,
well done,
really
Anthony.
fast.
Appreciate you.
Davey, if you want to get your roster review, and this is Adam's coming up, is the last roster review. So I need you to get it submitted before we finish Adam's roster review coming up.
You got
So
10 to 12 minutes.
Yep. Sweet. On to the next.
All right.
Just guys being dudes.
Just guys being dudes. Love it. All right. Adam, he said, as you can see, I have fallen in love with stacks and handcuffs. It definitely locks me into keeping players on my roster. Any thoughts on some roster moves? I plan to draft Travion Henderson at 104. So this is, I'm guessing, so I think this is a 1 quarterback PPR is based on the values. So 1 quarterback PPR, you've got the number 1 quarterback for fantasy football, depending on who you ask, but most people would say Josh Allen, number 1 guy in dynasty fantasy football right now at quarterback. Bo Nix and Justin Fields backing him up. Breece Hall, James Cook, Brian Robinson, Braylon Allen at running back. Wide receiver, Marvin Harrison, Garrett Wilson, Zay Flowers, Chris Olave, Keon Coleman, Cortland Sutton. Tight ends, we got Mark Andrews, Isaiah Likely, Ben Sinnott. And then picks wise, we've got 104, 205, 206, 304, and 305. So with all of this, Taylor, what are you doing with this team, my guy? Oh, real quick, show us the contender mode, Pete, as well.
He drops just a little. You think he's about 5.
Okay. All right. And then we can head back to dynasty mode then.
All right. So 10 teams. So tempering expectations a little bit for guys like Zay Flowers. In 10 teams, he's a borderline good starter in my assessment. I mean, I know for dynasty value, he's still a valuable player, but especially with the way Baltimore just constantly seems to be adding different pieces to their offense and never really focusing on one guy. For the purposes of looking at this roster, I'm seeing Zay Flowers as a move candidate. I would prefer to have someone else on this roster. Chris Olave's value right now is pretty depressed, so I don't think you can really be trying to shop him. But if I could package Keon Coleman and Zay Flowers to get myself like Devontae Smith, would you do that, Garrett? Would you give up Coleman to swap Flowers into a guy like Devonta Smith? Because in my mind, that's a win both value wise and production wise for next season. And that's the kind of move I want to make, is get rid of some of those like Keon Coleman, Zay Flower types. Same with like, I have Ben Sinnott, Zach Ertz, and I have Andrews and Likely. So you're not just handcuffing your running backs, you're handcuffing your tight ends too. And I think what we've learned over the seasons in fantasy is that's a very fragile way to build a roster, even though you feel secure because if your guy goes down, you've got a backup. If that offense doesn't do well, like if Lamar Jackson gets hurt and the Ravens just don't have anyone at quarterback for that season, now all of a sudden 2 of your 4 tight ends are not going to produce, even though they're not hurt. They're just not going to do well. So I think with the running back and the tight end room, that's where I like to diversify. I like to find 6 options at running back, 6 different teams. I like to find 3 or 4 guys at tight end if I don't have an elite guy that I can maybe use in a pinch. Guys like Hunter Henry, guys like Mike Gesicki. I don't feel great about this roster as far as like everything has to go right for us to win a championship. If something goes wrong with the Bills, if something goes wrong with the Jets, I don't think we can get there. And to me, those are not bets that I want to hinge my fantasy success on. The Bills, fine, but we've got 3 guys here for the Jets. So if the Jets don't do well, where are we at with that? So I think I would be trying to diversify out from these handcuffs that you've kind of gathered. Garrett, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I think I'm in the same boat. I'm not the biggest Keon Coleman guy. Even from the draft, I wasn't huge on him. I think he's going to be a fine, serviceable player, but I think he's going to be a lot like the guy you have right below him, Courtland Sutton. I think he's going to have kind of a Courtland Sutton type of career, hopefully not with the injuries, but where he's a solid player. He's a big body. He'll make some plays here and there. But overall, I mean, your team is right on the cusp, like right on the cusp of being one of those teams. And remind me again, Pete, what are our pick situations here?
I will look. I have so many different windows up.
We've got
104
104 and 2 seconds.
104 and 2 seconds. I would see, like, what can I do to get myself that legitimate third running back? Like, and I don't know how your league works. Every league's a little bit different. He says he plans to draft Henderson at 1-4. If Henderson's there at 1-4, I would have no problem with that. We'll see how the draft goes. If it got to a point where it was like, hey, it's just 2 guys, and those 2 guys are going to go at 1 and 2. All right, I'm packaging 206 and 205 and 304 and 305 and 405. Like, you could take my entire draft to move up into those top 2 picks, because I want to get somebody that I truly believe in is elite. Now, it might be a scenario where, you know, the 102 is in the same tier as through 105, 106. If that's the case, sit pat. Like, you're in great shape. You don't have to do anything. But like, I need to walk away from this draft feeling like I have an elite running back upside. Now, going back to what you were talking about, Taylor, with some of the handcuffs and things like that, like, I'm with you. I do want to diversify a little bit. I'm fine with some handcuffs on some elite situations, but like, I need to make sure it's an elite situation. So like, Braylon Allen's a good example. What we saw when Breece Hall went down was it wasn't like a 1-for-1 replacement. They threw in him. They threw in Isaiah Davis. They threw in a few different people. So like, the true handcuff doesn't equal out the same way. Now, there's other scenarios where, like a Tyler Algier, where it's like, nope, he's the guy. If Bijan's down, he's the guy. So I think not all handcuff situations are created equal. So while I understand why people do it, I don't think it's something that I want to be totally married to. As far as the tight end goes, Adam said that they're planning on drafting one. I think that would be a good idea. And if, assuming you don't have to make any moves, that 205 and 206 should be a pretty nice spot for some tight ends. Because, yes, we talk a lot about Warren and Loveland, as we should. Those are probably first-round guys. They're looking great. But Mason Taylor, there's rumor that he might be a first-round tight end. Like, he might go in the NFL draft as a first round. Oh, did you say that, Taylor?
Yeah, I took him in the second round of our rookie draft, and we haven't seen the draft yet. So I believe in him if I spent a second-round pick
Absolutely.
on a guy not even
is
knowing.
that how the rumor started?
That is how
I
the rumor
started it. Yeah.
Taylor
Okay.
started the fire. But, so if you're getting a guy that's a first-round tight end that you get at 205, 206, that's awesome. Looks like Elijah Aurora is going to be a second-round tight end. You're getting him at 205, 206. So you can build up some upside assets at that spot as well. And honestly, the Ravens might do you a favor and split these assets for you, because there's rumblings that Mark Andrews might not be on the opening day roster for the Baltimore Ravens, that he could end up being moved in this process. We'll see. But I think long-term, both those assets are not going to be Baltimore Ravens. So yes, Taylor, I am with you. I'm looking to maybe split some things up. Now, Taylor, are we more concerned with this team specifically? Are we more concerned with the depth of the team or the starting caliber assets? Because this is only what, start 8? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, I think it's only start 8. So to me, when it's a lower volume starting lineup where I'm not starting 9, 10, 11 guys, and I'm only starting 8, I don't care as much about depth. And it's only a 10-team league. Depth is not hard to acquire. I want superstars. If I'm starting 11, I want a little more depth. So I think for me, with this being a 10-team league and shallower starting lineups, I would be fine maybe sacrificing a little bit of depth, because you're going to add depth again through the draft. I'd be fine consolidating these assets and seeing if we can tier up in some spots. And I think that's mostly what you were alluding to earlier on, right, Taylor?
Yeah, I think that you want to get rid of Zay Flowers as a starter is what I am basically getting to. I think if you want to be able to compete in a 10-team league, you need to have a better alternative in your lineup, unless that's by far your worst spot. Now, I'm not saying that Zay Flowers isn't good, but I'm saying if you have a player who's essentially yeah, I know, right? I should smell him some more. There's really no where for him to go. He's not going to be
terrible joke.
It was a reference. It was a reference, though.
Justin gets it. Justin
gets it.
Justin.
So I guess what I'm trying to do is turn 2 guys into one legitimate starter. Can I turn Zay Flowers and Keon Coleman into someone better than Devonta Smith? That's fine. But I need someone who I can put in that lineup and feel like they're going to give me true wide receiver 2 or high wide receiver 3 numbers. Not someone who can reach wide receiver 2. I need someone who's likely going to do that. And along with that, you've talked about, we've got Zay Flowers, we've got Mark Andrews, we've got Isaiah Likely, all Ravens. We've got Justin Fields, Breece Hall, Garrett Wilson, all Jets. So I don't want to invest my entire fantasy season in the Jets. I get that we're not technically starting Fields. I get that Breece Hall and Garrett Wilson are both really good dynasty assets. But in a start 8, I am basically saying that a quarter of my fantasy points are going to come from the New York Jets this year. I don't love that, Garrett. I don't know about you. In a start 8, I want to diversify more. I don't want that going on. I think I would be apt to move Garrett Wilson or Breece Hall if I can get full value for them. I'm willing to split one of those guys to get real starting value. Can I switch Garrett Wilson out for like JSN and something valuable? I guess you'd have to know your league a little bit. I see that there's Jonnu Smith is on a team with 2 other good tight ends. So maybe you could pick up Jonnu Smith as well to go with Isaiah Likely and Mark Andrews. Ben Sinnott, maybe we'll see. But the more I look at this roster, Garrett, the more I want to get off of all of the same players. I don't feel good about it.
Yeah, no, I understand that completely, and I don't think that like I don't think you're incorrect for having some concerns about that. So, yeah, I'm with you.
Are you keeping anyone? Is there anyone that you're for sure keeping on this team?
That's like untouchable.
Josh Allen. Right, Josh Allen. But anyone else?
Not really. I mean, if the right offer came along, I think this team, like the hard part is, I don't want to make it seem like this is a team that needs to be blown up. It doesn't need to be blown up. It is not a bad team. This is a solid team overall. Just the worry is, are there enough elite assets to get you to where you need to go in a shallow start league? And I think that's the biggest concern is, are there enough of those? Can I move off some other guys to get me to the elite assets? And I think that's the direction and the mindset that we need to have. So that's what I would be looking to do. He did say Maserati Marv wants Breece bad. So what does Maserati Marv have? Okay. I don't know. There's nothing that like jumps out at me. Scroll back up, Pete.
Maserati Marv wants Breece bad, but they don't really have much to give that we're interested in.
Yeah, I don't.
They have the 107 and Kyron.
I guess. I mean, yeah, I would be fine with that. But I'm guessing if he wants Breece, it's because he's trying to build up his running back room. So he's probably not wanting to trade a running back, I guess.
How many Maseratis they got?
What's the pick situation?
For our guy?
Yeah.
We've got 104, 205, and 206.
Okay. So, yeah, if he's willing to do Kyron and 107 for Breece, I would do that. But I don't think.
I'm on mute. Scratch that. So it's Super Fire Maserati.
I think it's Super Awesome Fire. Then.
Okay, Super Awesome Fire. Adam, is that correct?
All right, so the Super Fire wants him. Super Awesome Fire Maserati Marvin of Fires. All right,
Mims.
All right, so if that's the case, this guy, that makes it a little more interesting. Although it once again kind of puts you in a weird spot. Like, I personally would be fine. Like, I have Achane and Breece in the same tier, but like, it just feels like a lateral move that he probably doesn't want to make. What picks does he have?
He has no 25s. He has 2 and 26.
He's not going to want to trade Trey McBride. He's not going to want to trade.
He might trade Trey McBride.
You think he would?
He might trade Trey McBride.
I mean, if I could get Trey McBride plus, I guess I'd listen.
I think I'd rather have. Would you rather have Jonnu, though? I think I'd rather just go out and get Jonnu because the other guy that has him has George Kittle, Tucker Kraft, and Cole Kmet. So I bet you can get Jonnu from him for the 206.
Yeah, I think that's.
You're going to give the 206 for Jonnu? Sure, why not?
Yeah, I just don't see a trade to be made here because if you're doing that, he's probably not wanting to give up a running back, and the only running back that makes sense is a lateral move in Devon Achane, and then wide receivers, he's shallow at receiver actually, so I don't see him wanting to give up. He wants to just give you Chase Brown? No, come on.
I mean, Chase Brown and both the 26
yeah, both first. Okay, now I'll listen.
That's I'm not joking. Like, seriously, if you're going to try offer me someone who might not have a starting job in a couple months, I need to get some legitimate collateral, and 2 unknown 26 first is probably the lowest collateral I'm willing to take.
Yep. I'm fine with that. All right. Adam. Oh! All
Brandon
right.
with a nuke.
Davey coming in strong at the end of the show with a little nuke action. All right. So let's see. We're looking at Davey's team here. This is let me make sure I got all this updated right. He said, I was intending to soft rebuild last year. Last year's moves, preseason, Jordan Mason off waivers. In season, got Odunze plus a 25-6 for Amari, plus 26 first. DK plus McCarthy for Mahomes, and plus Javonte and Ayuk for Rashad White. Made a run, ended up in third with fifth in points. Playoffs, Kamara for Tracy, Evans for Pop Douglas in a third. Other moves made prior to this year. There's a lot of them. I'm not going to get into all the moves made. But here's the thing. Here's what we need to look at. This squad right now, this is a – do we have – is this is one QB, right?
One quarterback.
Yep,
Okay.
one QB.
So one QB. We've got J.J. McCarthy, Sam Darnold at quarterback. Running back, Mr. Saquon Barkley, Josh Jacobs. Wide receivers, Rome Odunze, Jalen Waddle, DK Metcalf, Brandon Ayuk, Mike Evans, Stephon Diggs, Deontay Johnson. Tight ends, Kyle Pitts, Brenton Strange, Eric All. And then draft picks wise, we've got 106, 209, and 304. So, man, this is a weird one. This is a weird one because at parts of it, you're like, oh yeah, this is a contending team. And then other parts you look at it and you're like, but is it? But is it though? Where do we have him ranked as far as contender?
He shoots up.
Okay, so he's up to 4. A lot of that is on the back of one Mr. Saquon Barkley. He is in one quarterback. He is the number one contending asset right now. So that being said, Davey agrees. He's like, yeah, it's weird. I get it. I have teams like this too, where I'm like, what am I? What is my identity? Because on one hand, I feel like on any given week, my team could be great. Because let's look at it from the optimistic lens. Let's look at it from the optimistic lens. Sam Darnold balls out like he did last year, right? Balls out. Saquon Barkley repeats what he did. Josh Jacobs is still a stud. Jordan Mason is fairly involved with Minnesota. Mike Evans has another solid 1,000 yards, 12 touchdown type season. Diggs comes back healthy. Metcalf has a good year. Jalen Waddle bounces back. Odunze has a big there's a lot. Like if I wanted to talk myself into a contender, there's a route to do it. Like I could see it. However, if we're being more realistic, there are a lot of things that could go wrong. You could have almost nothing at quarterback or tight end, realistically. Running backs, if one guy gets hurt, like there's the season. Like if Jacobs or Barkley gets hurt, there's the season. Wide receiver, it's a lot of, buy low, bounce back type of guys on the roster at wide receiver. So if I'm being realistic, I'm doing potentially one of two things. What's the pick situation again, Pete?
106.
106 and
is our first.
209, 304. Okay. What I'm realistically doing is, this is going to sound funny, but hang with me. What I'm realistically doing is right now, I'm doing a whole lot of nothing. I'm doing a whole lot of nothing at the moment. I'm drafting the players that I like at 106. Maybe I make some trades with 209 and 304. Or I just draft players I like there. I'm doing nothing other than that. And I am probably playing this into week 4, week 5, week 6, and see where am I realistically at. Did Stephon Diggs bounce back? Is Sam Darnold balling out? Did Kyle Pitts rise from the dead, or is Zach Ertz just being a monster? Like, are those things happening that I hoped would happen? Are they happening? Because if that's the case, you have a legitimate argument to try to push for a title. What I think is the more likely scenario, though, is we get towards the season and we find ourselves kind of in the middle of the road and risking injury every week, blowing this into oblivion. So I think we can do one of two things: do absolutely nothing now, wait till the season, and then in season, when people start to need assets, trading these players when they have the most value, which is in season, doing that there. Now, most of those players will. You always run the risk of guys underperforming, getting hurt. So there is risk in that. 2, the other scenario, and this would probably be the route I would go, is I would still start off just like we talked about, but I'm going to bite the bullet right before the season because I don't want to risk any injuries. I don't want to risk underperforming. I'm going to bite the bullet knowing that I'm basically donating this year. And I'm saying
He doesn't have his 26 first, by the way.
oh,
Does that change things?
Yep, that does.
Yep. Okay, so
That's a good call out. That was a big build up all for that. Dang it.
He can get a 6th second-round pick, though.
the person who has his second or his 26 first could use Saquon.
Who is it?
It's Juice Barajas.
Mm.
So they could use Saquon. I guess if you wanted to get your first back, that's kind of what you're going to have to do. I don't know if they're going to say you got to do it before you blow up your team. You got to get your 26 first back before you can blow up your team. But if we were to look at it a little differently, and you want to play it for things to go right, what I'm noticing with this league is the distribution of players is not even. So we've got, if we go to quarterbacks, you don't have to go through all these, Pete, but I'll read them off here. So there's a couple of teams that have like 5 quarterbacks. And there's a couple of teams that have 3 quarterbacks. There's a couple of teams that have, so there's 2 teams with 3, 2 teams with 4, and we only have to start 1. So if Sam Darnold or JJ McCarthy doesn't come out and do well for us, I think we can turn around and go buy a quarterback from one of these other 3 teams for a future second or something. I think that we have a good chance at getting a better tight end as well. Some of the rosters in this league have multiple tight ends that you could go and maybe you can trade for Jonnu Smith in this league. Maybe you can trade for, they also have Evan Ingram. Maybe you could trade for Evan Ingram. I think getting one of those guys could help as well. But if anything goes wrong, then you have to be ready to pull the plug. So without your 26 first, I don't think you can be as proactive as you'd want to be. I think you'd want to go out and get that. Maybe you can get your first back with Josh Jacobs, and that still leaves you Saquon. So then you still have some flexibility left. But if we're being completely honest, I think you would do your best to get your 26 first back. Yep. and then start moving some of these players, guys like Ayuk, Metcalf, Diggs, Evans. All of those guys are off my roster. I'm keeping Waddle, Odunze, unless his value spikes. I'm probably going to keep him too, but that's not because I'm keeping them because I think that they're worth building around ultimately. It's because I think you're not going to get the value for them that you might need before the season starts. So if you're going to be able to get your 26 first back, then yeah, I'm blowing it up. And if I can get it using anything but Saquon Barkley, then I'm going to do that. Like if I got to give them 3 of these other players to get a 26 first, but it's my own 26 first back with this team, I'm sending away those 3 players.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think you have to. I think you have to get that pick back, because I think we're right now just risking way too much on a lot of what if type of guys. Um,
We could finish in the bottom 3 after trying all season with this team.
you could finish
Like,
in the
it's
top
possible
3
that
as well. Like that's the tough part about this squad,
if everything goes
Right.
right, if everything goes yeah.
but if everything goes wrong, you're right. It could be a
I
bottom
do
3
feel
team.
like, for the most part, though, there's usually 2 to 3 rebuilding teams that probably aren't gonna really be that competitive. So I feel pretty confident about this team being a playoff team, unless if something really.
I don't know. You have no depth at running back, though. So let's just say that the Packers draft another running back because, they're kind of known to do that, to have 2 running backs at a time. This last season didn't work out because Lloyd was hurt, Dylan was out. They never found someone else necessarily that could come in. But let's just say that they take a running back in the 3rd round. How are we feeling about Josh Jacobs now? How much value does he have trade-wise now? Not nearly what he did before. Right now, you can get a 26 first for him.
I hate
I don't know if you'll get that again.
I hate to do this. I hate to because I like the thought process. I like a lot of the players, but I think to capitalize before there's a lot of these players that just fall off a cliff. I think you've got to get your 26 first and then build from there. I think you got to. I just don't. The more I look at it and the more I examine it, I just don't see another path that I feel great about. So if Josh Jacobs gets the job done, amazing. If it's Saquon Barkley and you get, I think at that point you could probably get your 26 first and maybe his 26 first. And you could probably get both if you're dealing Saquon Barkley. Because otherwise I just don't see, because I don't want to lead you to a path to 5th place. And that's the hard part, is like right now, I do feel like this is a team destined to be 5th. And like, that's fine. And every once in a while you can get lucky in the playoffs and injuries happen to the other team and like all that can happen, but it's much more likely to happen to you just because you don't have the depth at running back. And it's a lot of like older and bounce back wide receivers.
So let's click on the Juice Barajas one again. That's who has our first. So now let's say they want Saquon. If you go down to their draft picks,
They might want a receiver too, honestly.
so they have 109, they have our first, and they have their own first. Now what I'm doing is I'm sending them Saquon for the 109 and both 26 firsts. And if they say, no way, that's way too much, then I'd say, okay, how about just the 109 and my first? And then see what they say. If they say, oh, that's just too much, I don't know if I can do it, do the 109, your first, and kick it to a 27 first. See if they'll do that. And if they say, you know what, that's close but not quite, then give them one of these receivers you have. Give them Mike Evans. Give them, Stephon Diggs isn't going to get you much, but maybe you can do DK and Barkley and get back a haul. Maybe you can get those first 3s and something. But I'm going to hide that I need my 26 first back. I'm hiding that by asking for assets that in theory are worth the same or worth more. The 109 versus an unknown 26 should be worth more to the manager with the 109 right now. But they might feel differently. So if you say Josh Jacobs for the 109 plus and they say no, then say, okay, Josh Jacobs for my 106 and that same plus. And they might say, okay. So I'm hiding it, but I'm reaching out, asking them if they're interested in my guys. And then when I'm giving them an offer back, I'm asking for other firsts and including my own. And then I'm basically going to say like, you know what? Let's just do it for my first and the 109, and I'll kick this in and call it good. Like, I'm going to get that deal done because you can't go into the season without it.
Yep, absolutely. And then you start working on let's go back to our team real quick, Pete. Then honestly, I think you start just tearing it down from the studs. Like, okay, what can I get for Brandon Ayuk? What can I get for Jalen Waddle? I wouldn't be pushing it as much on Jalen Waddle because I think he's a depressed asset right now. So I'd rather hold him unless somebody believes. I'd probably hold Romo Dunze. But yeah, all the guys above, Evans, Diggs, Ayuk, Metcalf, they're all gone. Somebody in every league tends to like Jalen Coker. What can I get for Jalen Coker? Kyle Pitts. Usually there's one Pitts believer. Like I'm just ripping the Band-Aid off. Even Dennis is right. Like I'm seeing if somebody's excited about Jordan Mason to the Vikings because that's never never going to help me. Yeah. Who has Aaron Jones? So I think at that point we do go look and do a fire sale and just have fun with it.
But you got to get your 26 first before you make any of those other moves. Yep.
Great.
All right. Pete, is that our final one?
That's our final one.
Guys, fantastic show. So much fun being in here with you guys. Love talking these trades. Love talking these roster reviews. Love just hanging out with you and hearing your guys' thoughts on stuff. We have 2 of these shows every week. Every week we're doing 2 of these, Monday and Wednesday. We'll be getting Rich in here for some of these shows as well. So it's going to be a blast. We're going to be hanging out with you guys. If you want roster reviews, you can go ahead and put those in. We'll get them on Monday. Trades, we'll do those as well. Some of the trade values are, hey, we might not get to it on the air, but we'll for sure get back to you with an answer. Some of them are like, yep, we're guaranteed to get you an answer on the air. It's a lot of fun. I had a great time. Taylor, anything you want to tell the good folks before we get out of here?
Yep, we just had our Superflex mock draft drop on the website. So if you're looking for some all 22 video footage of these prospects that we're talking about, if you want to hear where their best possible landing spots would be, what kind of schemes they'd do best in, what kind of supporting cast we'd like them to have, that's the focus of this most recent draft. So feel free to go on there, check out all 48 picks. We do all 4 rounds. That's what we try to kick out for you guys. So while we wait for that rookie draft app that's going to be coming out in April, the best we got are your Superflex and 1QB rookie mocks. So check those out.
Pete, anything you want to tell the good folks before we get out of here?
Sadly, kind of some breaking news. Did you hear about that actress who just got stabbed?
This is going to be a
bad joke.
No, it's
who got stabbed?
Reese. What's her name?
Witherspoon. No, it was with a knife. I knew what you're doing.